Hey guys, so a lot of you have been asking me questions regarding my IVF journey and my fertility journey. And although a lot of you have been asking me questions, most of the questions are pretty much the same. So instead of going through all my DMs on Instagram answering all these people the same question, I figured it would be best to just make a video about it. So here we go. If you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to leave them in the comment section. I'll either reply to your comment directly or I'll do another video answering the questions at a later date, y'all. So here we go. We had two questions I'm gonna answer together because they're kind of the same. Some of you asked what went wrong and some of you asked why didn't IVF work. So it's no way to know what went wrong, at least in my situation, because everyone's protocol is different. For me, I had to do birth control for 1 month before injections. Injections will last anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks. During that time frame, you will go to the doctor every other day. Every other day, you're getting blood work. Every other day, they're measuring your follicles. And for me and my treatment, every appointment was great. Every appointment was great. When it comes to the egg retrievals, a lot of us assume that when they take these eggs out, every egg they take out is going to make it to the blastocyst stage, and every egg is going to be A+, and every egg is going to live. That's unfortunately not true. I believe in my first IVF, I may be wrong because I don't have my documents in front of me, but I believe in my first IVF they retrieved maybe 8 eggs. By the end of the week, I only had 3 eggs. Surprisingly, all 3 eggs was A+ eggs. They was the highest quality egg you could have. They were perfect. We transferred 2, and like idiots, we decided not to freeze the one that was left over. And the reason we decided not to freeze is because freezing embryos is very expensive. It's like $1,800. So we did not want to spend, you might as well say, $2,000 on 1 egg. That was dumb of us because those eggs, our first IVF, was the best eggs we've had. Why the eggs that we transferred didn't stick, nobody knows. No doctor will be able to answer that. No doctor. He can be the highest of high in this field. He or she still will not know why it didn't stick. Sometimes shit happens. The second IVF, they retrieved like, I think it was like a crazy number, like 15 eggs. By the end of the week, by midweek, we was down to 10 eggs. By the end of the week, all of them died. All of them was bad. Why? Nobody knows what happened. My current doctor believe it may have been an issue with the sperm. We don't know. With my third IVF, that was another good one. I think we got 9 eggs, and by the end of the week, we had 3 eggs left. 1 was at a perfect grade. 1 was at a grade below perfect, and 1 was just good. And our intentions was to freeze whatever was left. So we transferred 2 eggs, and we went to freeze the third, but for whatever reason, that egg didn't even make it to freezing. It just it stopped growing. We don't know why. With that transfer, they did a 3-day transfer, and it didn't work. And for me, they told me I wasn't pregnant, and then a few weeks later, I bled out at work. So for me, I just feel like when it comes to IVF and fertility clinics, if they are going to do a 3-day transfer, instead of giving you a pregnancy test in 10 days, I think they should give you a pregnancy test in 15 days, because technically if you're transferring an egg that's a 3-day egg, it hasn't even reached blastocyst stage yet. And blastocyst is the highest stage. That's the best stage. That's the stage that will give you the best chances of it working. So why test early? And I think that was the problem with me and my last IVF. So to answer your question, I don't know. The doctors don't know. Nobody knows. That's the thing about IVF. Nobody knows, and it's no guarantee. I think a lot of us, including myself, go into fertility treatment with the assumption that because we're doing IVF, it's automatically is going to work. I mean, why wouldn't it work? They fertilizing your egg. They fertilizing the egg with the sperm. They then taking that egg, they putting it back in your body. And not only are they putting it back in your body, they putting it exactly where the hell it needs to go. So why wouldn't it work? And with anything in life, it's no guarantees. So I don't know why it didn't work. And I never will. Would I consider adoption, or have my wife and I consider adoption? We've talked about adoption. I've always loved the idea of adopting. I think if you have a loving home and you have space in your home and you can financially afford it, I think everyone should adopt. No child should be left without a family. That's how I feel. The flip side is, and this is something my wife and I agree on, we cannot comprehend why adoption is so freaking expensive. Adoption and surrogacy are side by side. They can run anywhere from, let's say, $30,000 to $40,000 all the way up to well over $100,000. And for me, I just cannot comprehend why we have to spend that much money to give a child who's not wanted a home. And when I say not wanted, I'm not saying that in a mean way, because there's some situations where stuff happens and females get pregnant and they know they cannot financially support their child, and they know that they would not be able to give the child the type of life they would want for him or her. I admire those people who can acknowledge that. In that case, go ahead, girl, give them up for adoption. But it's some people who just out here fucking and getting pregnant and just don't want the damn kid. So either way, that kid needs a home. So why do you have to spend so much money? It's like up to $100,000 in the city I live in. I can buy a house right now for $100,000, throw some paint on the walls, and rent it out to somebody for like $1,500 a month. I can comprehend why you have to spend that much. So for me and my wife, if we're gonna spend a large amount of money on adoption, I'd rather just invest that money into IVF and keep trying to get pregnant with IVF. That's just my personal opinion. The flip side, people also ask, well, you know, it's less expensive if you go through the foster system. And that's true. I know a few people who were foster parents. They had great experiences. They ultimately ended up being able to adopt their child. To this day, unless you knew them, you would not know that that was not their child, and they live happily ever after. I also know a lot of people who've been foster parents, welcome this child in their home, and the child was a menace. Like the movies, those movies you see, it's not fake. The child was a menace. This one girl I work with, she was telling me about an experience her aunt had. The little girl, she woke up. You know how you feel somebody watching you? The little girl had a knife, was just standing over her with a knife. I don't got time for that. Another flip side of fostering, and this is the worst in my opinion, is you can have this child, you can be the foster parent for this child for a long time, for a year, 2 years, whatever. You love that child loves you, the child calls you mommy, your family is great, everything is great, and then you just go to start the adoption process, and then all of a sudden, the social worker calls you and say, hey girl, the birth mom took a 2-hour class and they printed out a certificate saying she is now an outstanding mom. And this certificate basically says she would never beat this child again. This certificate says she would never be a crackhead again. This certificate says she would never put her child in danger again. So we're going to come and get the baby tomorrow and give him back to the mom. And then it's been situations where they've given the child back to the mom, and then 6 months later, the child is right back at the foster people's house. Now that child don't trust you anymore, because now that child thinks, you didn't love me too. You gave me up just like my mama did. So you have those situations. And then it's been unfortunate situations where the state gave the child back to the birth mom, and now the child is dead. My wife and I, we are hard people. We are tough people, but our heart would not be able to handle any of those situations. So for us personally, fostering is out the question. We will deal with not having any children at all before we do that. That's just our opinion. If you are a foster parent right now, I love you. Continue doing what you do. I admire you, all of that. But for us, it's not for us. It's not for us. And the next two questions, would I consider donor eggs, or have I considered reciprocal IVF? I don't know if you guys watch Simply Tanika. If you haven't, I'm going to put the link to her channel below. And what she said in regards of donor eggs is how I feel too. I think anybody who can donate their eggs, I think you all are wonderful. I think you all are great, but it's just not for me. I love the idea that I still will be able to carry a child. All of that would be great, but at the same time, I want some type of connection to our family. Example, I gave birth to my daughter. So my daughter isn't my daughter anymore. She's our daughter, but my blood runs through her veins. If I was to do donor eggs, they would be my wife eggs. That way, although my wife is my wife eggs, you know, that's still our child, and my wife blood runs through that child. So it's a family connection. That's what we will want. We will want our child to be connected and be family. So accepting stranger eggs, that's not something I personally will be comfortable with. Not at this phase in my life, I personally wouldn't be comfortable with it. It's this one lady, I cannot think of her name right now, but I love her. She's on IG. She's fucking hilarious. She has the prettiest little chunky little girl you will ever see. OMG. And her husband did. Sorry, my phone wrong. But her and her husband did donor eggs, but they used his sperm. So the baby, although isn't biologically hers, she still birthed the baby, but the baby is still theirs, and the baby is linked through her husband. Beautiful family. I think it's called Expecting Anything or something like that. I'll put the link below. I think all that is great. So if I would do donor eggs, it would totally be my wife eggs. If I had to use a stranger eggs, didn't know. That rolls into the next question, reciprocal IVF. My wife and I, we talked about it a little. With me, I'm 37 years old. The quality of my eggs is fine. My eggs been tested. My current doctor thinks my eggs is great. They're fine. The quantity of my eggs is the problem. I don't have a lot of eggs, and I think a lot of us, we don't take in consideration that we're getting old, ladies, and the older we get, the quantity and quality of our eggs will increase. It's no medicine that we can get that will give us more eggs. That's just the way it is. So although My doctor has said many times my eggs are fine. The fact that with 2 of my 3 IVF, I average a total of 6 eggs out of, you might as well say, a total of maybe over 30 that was collected. That makes me feel uncomfortable. So I will be all for doing a reciprocal IVF. My wife has no interest at all in giving birth. The idea of pushing something the size of a watermelon out of a hole the size of a cherry completely freaks her out. Although she has said many times, if I can't, she will. I know that would make her uncomfortable, and my wife being comfortable and being content and with her pregnancy is more important to me than us having another baby. So I wouldn't want to force my wife to give birth, but she'll be willing to donate her eggs. I think the problem with reciprocal IVF is not the procedure itself, is that my wife and I, although we discussed it a little, we haven't taken the time yet to price it out financially. We have not done that yet. I've used fertility coverage with our insurance. My wife has not. So I'm almost positive she would be completely covered for, you know, the retrieval, the appointments and injections and all of that. Medication's not a problem. You know, all of that would be covered. But since I've utilized all of my IVFs, I would need to find out how much it will be after they removed her eggs to transfer them back into me. I would need to see how much that will cost, if that makes sense. So stay tuned for the answer to that question, because girl, I do not know yet. But that is something we're definitely looking into and considering. It's an option. The final question is, what's next? Y'all, I have been very open about my struggles with Shady Grove Fertility. I have not had the best experience with them, unfortunately. My current doctor with them is absolutely wonderful, and she is outstanding and great. I wish I could just pick her up and take her to another clinic and everything would be perfect. I love Dr. Bill. If you are in the Baltimore area and you need a fertility doctor, I would recommend Dr. Bill at Shady Grove or Dr. Padilla with the Fertility Center of Maryland. Hands down, she is awesome. I wish I would have changed to her after my first IVF, because I felt like it may have been different. With her, she's the one who looked at everything and saw that all of my HSGs was the same and that I needed the surgery. So I feel like if I would have been her patient, even if it wasn't from the jump, but if it was from the second IVF, if I would have been her patient, I would have had the surgery then, before we even did a second IVF, before it would have been a third. And I feel like if the procedure I had to get done would have been done before, the outcome would have been different. I feel like we would have baby Taylor by now. That's just my personal opinion. And even if we didn't have a baby, I feel like my view on the clinic as a whole would be different, because her and her staff is so awesome. With all of that being said, because of everything I've gone through with Shady Grove Fertility, I'm just not comfortable. I mean, I get so much anxiety just pulling up to their clinic. Like, I have to schedule an appointment now for IUI, like your initial appointment. I have not done it yet, and I have until like March something to do it. I have not done it yet because I'm so nervous. And although I love Dr. Bill, and although I know she will have our best interests at heart, and she would do whatever she could to try to get this IUI to work, I'm just so nervous about Shady Grove or possibly having to deal with some of the people that I've dealt with. So I have contacted my insurance to see if we can switch. they are contracted with Shady Grove. So it's a whole process. And, you know, if you don't use Shady Grove, and if you want to go to somewhere else, it has to be a medical reason why you switching. So I can switch, but it's an entire process you got to go through. You got to go through referrals. You got to go through appeals. You got to go through a bunch of shit. And I just don't understand why you have to go through all of that. If I'm telling you, and not only am I telling you, I'm showing you documentation that this company, this entity that you have a contract with has discriminated against me, has treated me unfairly, has been unprofessional with me, have been rude to me, and the list goes on and on and on, have misdiagnosed me, has refused to give me a surgery that they knew I needed beforehand, and all of this. Why do I have to stay with them? So right now I've done what I'm supposed to do, and speaking with my insurance, she said you have to write a letter stating that you want to go somewhere else. That letter then has to be denied. No, first you have to do the referral. The referral has to do a denied. The deferral then will be denied. She told me it will be denied. Then after that denied, you have to write a letter asking for an appeal of the denial. And then that will be denied. And then you got to write another letter to appeal that decision. And then it's a final letter to appeal the no that you've been told that you can't go somewhere else, because I technically can go somewhere else. I just have to get a referral. But in order to get the referral, you have to go through all of this appeal process. It's just a long, dragged out process that I'm just over, y'all. Like, I'm over. I done got 2 denials already. So now I think we're in the final appeal stage. Who knows? But they were like, if I didn't go through this, and then if I filed a complaint with the insurance board, they would just tell the insurance board, well, you didn't go through the appeal process, and this is why. It's just a whole bunch of bogus bullshit. So I am really trying my hardest to go to another clinic. But y'all, I don't even know if that's going to be possible. So I'm trying to mentally prepare myself to the idea that I may still be a Shady Grove customer when I start my IUIs in March. But we working on it. I'm trying to, it's a bright side. We working on it. But I am getting to that place where I'm tired. I've been fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting to be treated fairly by Shady Grove Fertility since I was in the midst of treatment, and that was in 2017. So I've been fighting for 2 years just to be treated fairly, just to be treated like a human being and not like a dollar sign. Because with them, it was a lot of, oh, the insurance paying for it, so we might as well. And it was barely none of the, oh, we think this could work, or we're going to try our best. So I've been fighting and fighting and fighting since then, and I am getting to the point where I'm getting tired. So I feel like I'm going to have to give in. I'm going to have to just suck it up and give in and continue to see them. Or I'm going to have to suck it up and let go of my hope and my desire to have more children. So we'll see. We'll know next month, y'all. Until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful Friday night, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye, guys.